I worked the evening shift at the cancer center in our local hospital, doing cleaning work. The cancer center was one of the newer sections of the hospital, modern and sleek, with pristine white walls and smooth, polished floors that gleamed under the bright lights. It had that sterile, almost too clean feeling that you get in places designed to make a strong impression. Everything was state-of-the-art, from the high-tech machines to the cushioned seating in the waiting areas. But despite its newness, something about the place always felt off. The way the fluorescent lights hummed incessantly overhead, the uniformity of everything, all too perfect and precise, almost like it had been designed to be devoid of personality. The walls were unadorned, save for a few generic art pieces that did little to break the cold, minimalist vibe. It was as if the building had been created to be functional above all else efficient, clean and impersonal. The quietness of the place seemed too deliberate, too calculated, as if it were actively trying to suppress any noise or distraction. The rooms had a modern, open feel, with sleek glass panels and chrome fixtures. But there was something about the long hallways and endless rows of doors that made the building feel like a maze designed to be efficient, but disorienting, as if the layout itself was meant to disorient you. The constant hum of machinery in the background, combined with the soft click of doors locking and unlocking, added a strange tension to the otherwise smooth environment. It wasn't the worst job, and it wasn't the best either, but hey, at least it paid the bills. Most nights, the place was quiet, and I liked it that way. The quietness was soothing in its own way, just the steady hum of machines and the occasional soft shuffle of footsteps in the hallway. It felt almost like a tomb, but not in a bad way. People came and went during the day, but by evening, it was just me and one other coworker, Mike, finishing our shifts, cleaning the rooms that had been used throughout the day. Mike and I had been cleaning this place together for nearly 3 years, ever since he took the job after moving into town. We'd shared quiet conversations in the dim light of the hallways, talked about life and our plans after work. But there was something about tonight, something unspoken between us, a tension I couldn't quite place. Mike was usually the first to brush off any talk of ghosts or supernatural nonsense. He liked to joke that if there were spirits here, they were probably just bored old people, just waiting for the clock to run out. So Mike and I had gotten used to the late hours. The building was quiet, almost eerily so after all the patients had left for the night, and the staff was long gone. It was just us, mops, and the hum of the fluorescent lights above. Mike and I had been there for hours, cleaning each room, sweeping the halls, and disinfecting the surfaces. The cancer center was one of the older parts of the hospital, and though it was well kept, there was always this heaviness in the air. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but it was there. The silence was deafening, save for the occasional noise of the vacuum or the sound of our footsteps echoing down the empty hallways. What made the place even creepier was the security system. Every door in the building was locked, and the only way to get in or out was by using an employee badge. When someone swiped their badge, you could hear the faint beep followed by the loud click of the latch unlocking. It was almost a reassurance that the place was sealed off, but it also made you feel isolated, alone. On that particular night, though, something felt off. Mike and I had been working in the examination rooms when we heard it, the unmistakable sound of a door unlocking. We both stopped, exchanging a look. Neither of us had moved from our current spots in the center, and we hadn't heard anyone approaching. And I can't stress this enough, we were completely alone.
Did you hear that?
Mike asked quietly, his eyes scanning the hall. I nodded. Yeah, someone just unlocked a door. We stood there, waiting for the sound of footsteps or voices. Nothing. Just the dull hum of the lights and the occasional drip of water from a faucet somewhere. Then it came. A voice. Clear, loud, and unmistakable. "Hey!" Mike and I both froze, our blood running cold. The voice had come from the hallway, but there was no one there. No footsteps, no shadows in the doorway. Nothing. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. We both stood there for a moment, eyes wide. "Anyone there?" I called out, trying to sound calm, though my voice was shaky. "Who is that?" No response. Mike and I exchanged looks. The silence that followed was even worse than the voice. There was nothing but the faint buzzing of the lights above and the creeping feeling that something wasn't right. "You think it was a prank?" I asked, though I didn't really believe it myself. Mike shook his head.
No, I don't think so. There's no one else here, right? We'd have heard them.
We moved cautiously down the hallway, checking each room, opening the doors to see if someone was playing a prank or hiding. But each room was empty, just the sterile white walls and the rows of empty chairs in the waiting rooms. The cancer center had a somber, clinical feel, even when it was full of patients. But now, with no one around, it felt suffocating, like we were walking through a ghost town. As we walked through the empty hallways, I couldn't help but remember the stories the other staff had whispered about the cancer center. Some said the building was haunted, rumors of strange occurrences that no one wanted to explain. One night, a nurse swore she saw a patient's empty bed move on its own, a chair rocking by itself in one of the rooms. And then there was the legend of room 213, the one room that no one ever wanted to clean after hours. No one ever spoke of it openly, but I'd overheard a few staff members in hushed voices sharing stories of strange lights and shadows in the room that couldn't be explained. I shook my head and started to focus on the present. The strange thing that I need to focus was, we didn't hear the beep of the door unlocking again. No sign that anyone had come in or gone out. And yet, we had both heard that voice. It was clear, sharp, like it had come from right around the corner. "Hello?" I called out, trying to steady my breath. "Is anyone there?" My voice echoed through the empty halls, but there was no answer. Just the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above. We searched the entire building, every room, every hallway, but there was no one. No sign of anyone coming or going, no footsteps, no doors unlocking, just emptiness. We stepped outside into the chill, but the unease didn't leave. It lingered like the oppressive weight of something unseen, something just out of reach. Mike shoved his hands into his jacket pockets, his face drawn tight in frustration. It doesn't make sense. We checked everything, every room, every hallway. No one was here. I nodded, still trying to shake off the eerie feeling. We heard it though. That voice. Mike turned, his gaze lingering on the building behind us, his brow furrowing.
I don't know, man, but I've got this feeling, like we didn't just miss someone, like whatever it was wanted us to find it.
I glanced back at the cancer center. The dim light still flickered in the windows, casting strange, distorted shadows on the walls. It looked different from the outside, though, more imposing somehow. The hallways seemed to stretch on forever, despite knowing the building was small, just a couple of floors. The hum of the lights inside seemed louder now, more insistent, like a pulse. The voice came again, clearer this time, and I froze. "Hey!" It wasn't distant, like before. It was right there, just round the corner. I turned slowly, my body tense with fear, but there was nothing there. The hallway stretched out before me, empty. The light at the far end flickered in a steady rhythm, casting the shadows of long, spindly shapes across the walls. Mike looked over at me, his face pale.
Am I not imagining this time right?
His voice shook. I nodded. Yeah, but there's no one here except us now. The silence was unbearable, but we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. And then, just when we thought we were alone again, the door behind us slammed shut with such force it rattled the walls. The sound was deafening, and I spun around to see the back exit, which had been wide open just moments ago, now sealed tight. Mike, I said, my voice tight with panic. What the hell? We stared at the door, both of us realizing what it meant at the same time.
We're not alone,
Mike whispered. Let's get out of here, I muttered, feeling my pulse quicken. Mike nodded, but neither of us moved. The air between us thickened, as if something was holding us there, pushing us to stay just a little longer, to go back and search again. But neither of us dared to. Suddenly, the door to the back exit slammed shut with a force that rattled the windows. We both jumped, spinning around to face the building. The door was locked again. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine, the hairs on my neck standing on end. What the hell? I whispered, my breath coming in shallow bursts. It was just open. Mike's face was pale, his lips pressed into a thin line.
We're not alone here.
Then, as if on cue, we both heard it again. The unmistakable sound of a door unlocking. But this time, it was louder, more insistent. Mike, I said, my voice barely audible. We need to leave. Right now. But before we could turn, the voice echoed down the hallway again, clearer, colder, and closer to us this time. Hey! Mike's eyes locked onto mine, his expression a mix of fear and disbelief.
Who the hell is that? What is going on?
I didn't have an answer, but I knew we had to go, and fast. We turned to run, but the air around us seemed to thicken, the pressure building with every step, like we were wading through a dense fog. Each breath felt heavier, and the sound of our footsteps was swallowed up by the night. The cold air hit us, but it wasn't enough to shake the suffocating feeling that followed us. I had to look back once more, a strange, inexplicable compulsion pulling at me to look back. The door, now shut tight, loomed behind us in the distance. For just a split second, I thought I saw a figure in the window, a shadow standing just out of view. But when I blinked, it was gone. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Whatever was inside wasn't done with us yet. We didn't speak until we were out in the parking lot. The weight of what we'd experienced hung in the air like fog.
Should we tell the boss?
Mike asked, his voice low. I shook my head. No, let's just go. Neither of us said another word. We got in our cars and drove off, the quiet road stretching ahead of us. The unsettling feeling didn't leave me, though. That voice, the way the door had opened event, though it couldn't. It all felt wrong. The next day, we showed up for our shift as usual. Nothing seemed out of place. The lights were bright, the air smelled of disinfectant, and the normal hum of machines filled the halls. We didn't speak about the night before. Not to each other, not to anyone else. Our boss didn't ask why we looked so shaken, or why we didn't offer any explanation when he noticed. We just went through the motions, cleaning the rooms, restocking supplies, as if the eerie events of the previous night hadn't happened. The building seemed perfectly normal bright, shiny, full of life, like a hospital should be. The sound of footsteps echoed through the halls, the faint click of doors as staff passed by. But as the day went on, A gnawing feeling settled deep in my chest. Something wasn't right. That voice, the door unlocking, the feeling of being watched. It was impossible to shake. No matter how many times I tried to focus on the work in front of me, the memory of the night before clung to me like a shadow I couldn't outrun. It hadn't been a prank. It hadn't been a coincidence. There was something in that building. When I walked down that hallway again, I couldn't stop looking at the doors. Every single one of them felt like a trap. A door waiting to unlock on its own. A voice waiting to call out from the shadows. I couldn't get those sounds out of my head. I don't know how long it will be before the memory fades. Maybe it won't. I can't say if I'll ever be able to walk those halls again without feeling the weight of something watching me from just out of sight, without remembering the silence that followed that voice, and if maybe, just maybe, it was never really gone.